You're not killing me, Vero. It's not in the cards. It's no more than your friend Ives could whip me. It's you who will die here in this cave, Vero, right here on the sand. You wasted your time and your killing. You never laid hands on an ounce of that silver because you don't know where it is. I know where it is, he lied. And I died. You will never get it. Why? Because nobody else knows. Nobody at all. I'm going to kill you, all right. Vero's face was tight and cruel. I'll gamble on finding that silver. Lachlan swayed on his feet, suddenly weak. 1,000 could have looked for it, and nobody found it until George, and he had a clue. He knew something nobody else knew. The same thing he passed on to me. At the first sign of weak faintness, Chance Vero's hand dropped to his gun. Suddenly, Lachlan's knees buckled, and he went to the sand. Then he sagged back on his heels. Sorry, Vero, I'm in pretty bad. He lifted a trembling hand to his brow, yet not even as the hand seemed to touch his face. It darted like a striking snake, spraying sand in Vero's face. The gunman sprang back, and one hand clawed on his eyes, the other reaching for his gun. His gun came clear, but the moment's respite was all Lachlan needed. He got his clumsy fingers on his own gun, swung it up, steadied it with the other hand, and fired. Vero's gun roared, but blinding by the sand, he missed. Lachlan's bullet at point-blank range caught Vero in the diaphragm, striking up and in. Vero tried to swing his gun, but Lachlan fired a second time, then a third. Chance Vero crumbled on the sand, his fingers relaxing their grip on the gun. The gunshots echoed in the canyon, and there was an acrid smell of gunpowder mingled with dusty dampness. Then the echoes died, and there was only the soft chuckling of water over stones. Dusk was blending in the shadows in the streets of Toyabe when Jim Lachlan cantered down the street and drew up at the hotel door. Pike rushed out and grabbed his stirrup leather. "You all right, boy? I've been out of my skull with worry." "Where are they, Pike?" "Inside. What took you so long?" "A bit of trouble." All eyes turned on him as he entered. Castles looked pale and angry and uneasy. Those of Creighton Burt, John Shippey, and Fish Creek Barnes indicated only sharp interest. Armel Lachlan stared at him, her eyes showing her anxiety. Patch, looking surly, sat behind her. Lachlan leaned his hands on the table. "Castle, I had you wrong. You are a thief, but you are not a murderer." "I bought that ranch," Castle protested. "Here's my bill of sale." An obvious forgery. The trouble was, you had never even actually seen my brother's signature. You didn't worry because nobody else had either. I have several letters which signed by him, and also have his will. The will was written as he was dying, as with the knowledge that he was dying, and that leaves his ranch and all property to me, including mine on Bald Mountain. What's all this? What about this young woman? She was his wife. That's just it. Jim's eyes turned to Army. She never was his wife. I married them, Bert said quietly, right in my own office. The marriage wasn't valid because she was still married to Chance Vero. What, are you sure? I am sure. The two of them were teamed up, trimming suckers out in Frisco. And when Reed came to town flashing money around and talking big about his ranch and mining interests, they latched onto him. Army came over here to marry him. They found out he had lied and backed out. Chance had come along to enforce her claim, and he got wind of George's silver strike. They led Reed Castle keep the ranch to quiet him down. Lachlan drew a deep breath. He was tired, very tired. He wanted this to be over. He wanted to be away from here. She's talking ways. Taking ways, this girl does. And I nigh fell for her myself. George left me a note telling me all about it. She found him alone and lonesome, buttered him up some, and let him think that he was saving her from Castle. And then, after they left town, she shot him in the back. That back shot puzzled me, for George was touchy about anyone coming behind him. I couldn't see a man getting such a chance, but a woman might. As she shot him, Chance came out of the woods to finish him, but George got away. Vero had to wait until daylight to pick up the trail, and then by that time, George left his horse and crawled into the cave. His legs were paralyzed, but he wrote the details. then stuffed his notes, his will, what else he had, into a tin box and kept it there. On that sandstone, he scratched the old L-bar brand that would mean nothing to anybody but us. Where's Vero, then? Shippy demanded. Let's get the sheriff and round him up. Army's eyes were on Jim, wide and empty. She knew, and he could see that she knew. He was waiting for me at the cave. I left him there. Jim dropped the notes and the will on the table before Bert. There it is. There was enough to hang Vero, and there was enough to send Castle away for a good long stretch. Bert glanced up at Patch. Where does he fit in? She, my half-sister, Patch said sullenly. She, no good. Some white man bad. Some Indian bad. She, no good. Lachlan looked over at Patch, liking what he saw. You want a job? A permanent job? Uh-huh, I work good. Army's eyes were sullen with hatred. Having them know she was a breed bothered her more than she being accused of murder. Jim looked at her, marveling. When would people realize it wasn't race that mattered, but quality and integrity? How'd you work it out? Bert wondered. The first thing was the back shot. Then George's guns were gone. Later, I saw them hanging on a nail in her cabin. George's holsters and belt with his name carved into them were left. Only his guns were taken. George took those guns off for nobody, and the holsters in the cabin weren't his. They started me on the right track. Then I found tracks where she and Vero had been meeting over on Butler Creek. My head was aching so bad I could scarcely think. Then it dawned on me where I'd seen her tracks before. Vero's I did not know. My brother had seen her talking to Vero one time, but did not want me to believe there was anything between them. Lachlan got to his feet. That winds it up. He looked over at Castle. I'm moving on to the Antelope Valley place tomorrow. All your personal effects will be sent to town. The door opened behind them. And a short, heavy man stepped onto the floor, into the door. I'm Jacob Carver of Ellsworth, Kansas. I'm holding 600 head of cattle outside town. But I hear you folks got this country closed up, is that right? Shippy started to speak, but Lachlan interrupted. No, of course not. There's some unused range in Grass Valley, northwest of here. As long as a man is honest and a good neighbor, we've got room for him. Glad to have you. As Carver left, Lachlan glanced at Shippy. He's a good man. He knows his brand back in Texas. It's Kansas. This country can use this kind. Lachlan left, followed by Pike. Fish Creek Barnes glanced after him and then said, glancing from Shippy to Bert, things are clearing up around here, and she looks like fair weather ahead. He stood up. Looks like we've got a new pair of pants in the saddle. It surely does.